The monk class in Fire Emblem the Sacred Stone is a particularly interesting one. The reason being, it fills a niche in the game that is quite unique. In a game that is heavy on monster units and dark magic users, it is bound to excel in a variety of ways. So today we try to answer the question, how fast can you beat Fire Emblem the Sacred Stones using only Artur? The rules are as follow: hard mode, no grinding, no cheats or exploits allowed, 1 potion per map, and I am not allowed to use the convoy to grab more healing items. I can, however, use the convoy to grab any sort of item that is not a healing item. So first off, as the first few chapters roll around behind us and Artur absolutely decimates everyone, let's look at his starting stats and growth. So Artur doesn't really have amazing starting stats, but for a level 2 unit, they are decent enough. The one big thing that will stand out here is his 8 base speed, which is very significant because it means that right out of the gate, he can double even the most basic units. The 6 points in magic will do quite well early on, given that most enemies have pretty piss poor resistance. And at this point in the game, his 6 skill is nothing to scoff at. And while his 6 in resistance is pretty useless early on, it's a great base to build upon for later on in the game. But on the other hand, his starting luck and his starting defense are quite abysmal, being amongst some of the worst in the entire game. All in all, Artur seems to have a pretty balanced start, and I would say he kind of is a little bit above average. Before I start rambling off about growth rates, I'd like to address something right away. Artur only begins with 35 usage on the lightning tome, and if we just go straight forward and just do the run as is, we will be running out of that before his next opportunity to get another tome, which in this case is at chapter 4, because that's when you get access to the shop in the battle preparation screen. As I showcased in my loot run, for those who haven't seen it, it is possible to make it to chapter 4 using clever unit placement and using Seth to rescue and kind of block in certain units. And Artur, since he's not very different from loot, could go through that strategy very easily and it would work for him. However, a lot of people didn't like me using another unit to minimize my usage of tome, and I believe that criticism to be entirely warranted, given that after all, these are solo runs, and using another unit to move around, to rescue, and to block just kind of goes against the spirit of a solo run. And a lot of people suggested alternatives to that, and there was a bunch of interesting ones, but ultimately I settled on the most, I would say, fair option, which is adding the lowest item tier that character can use to the first shop you encounter in the game, which is in chapter 2. So for Artur, I added a lightning tome to the armory on chapter 2. The reason I went for that solution over, say, adding an extra tome to my inventory or something of the kind, it's because I just felt like that was the most fair approach. Since most melee units get a chance to stock up on chapter 2, it just feels fitting to allow the same thing for mages or any other unit that may run out of weapon early on. Given that the game was not designed to start with a magic user, it kind of is an easy adjustment to make. And also in that case, the mages also have to use gold, much like other units, to stock up on extra equipment, so it kind of balances it out there. Overall, I just felt it was the correct way to approach this very tricky situation, because we know that there's a way where we can use those 35 uses of that tome and make it to chapter 4, but since that kind of goes against the spirit of a solo run, I thought that the shop was just the simpler and most basic approach. Tell me what you prefer to see in the comments. I would love your feedback. As always, I want to make these, as fair as possible. All right, now that this is out of our way, let's talk about Artur's growth. Artur is an interesting case here. Like most mages, you would consider him a glass cannon, but at first glance, it might not feel as apparent as it did for loot, and that is because his stats are a little bit more balanced. What I mean by that is he has 50% growth in magic, 50% in skill, 40% in speed. He doesn't have like that huge stat in those three, like he looted 65% magic growth, but overall in the game, he finds himself a little bit above average in terms of growth, in terms of power all over the game, and in terms of skill. His speed I would consider a little bit under average in the average, as most characters in the game have around 45 speed growth or a little bit more, but overall that's really not been bad. He's kind of in the average, that's fine. Looking at his other stats, we can see that his HP, luck, and defense are very much in the lower echelon of the entire game, and that may cause major survivability issues later on. However, he has a standout 55% res, which is is equal to the second most in the game with Natasha, while the highest one is Tethys. So for offensive-minded unit, he technically has the highest res growth in the game. This is by far his best stat and might not seem like a big deal at first, but I think we'll see that later on in the run, it might be much better than we think. So overall, Artur is a nice spread of stat, and our strategy will be based around crit and high power magic. So as you may have been seeing in the background, Artur doesn't struggle that much in the early game. We get to have some lucky crits here and there from him, generally being around 6 to 10 crit chance. He'll get a few really fluky ones, and that's very nice to see. His good speed allows him to double right from the get-go, and he is an okay avoid. All that paired with the decent magic that we talked about earlier, due to the enemy's low resistance in this part of the game, it makes the early game a breeze. However, there is one small caveat to that, because if you get hit, it's time to maybe panic a little, because as advertised earlier, Artur's HP and defense growth are quite poor. And as you can see here on chapter 5, even standing in a forest, it can be a toss-up, as his very poor luck allows Joshua not only to hit, but to crit our poor monk. Yeah, that's not necessarily a roadblock, but it kind of just shows you what we're in for. Something important about this map for mages is it allows you to grab an early guiding ring if you manage to visit all the villages, but to ensure that happens, you have to take out all the bandits, and they spawn in pair periodically throughout the map, and these same bandits will always head towards houses unless they get a chance to attack you. This means you have to kind of rush this map if you do want that early guiding ring, because the next one's in chapter 10 versus Pablo, and that can be quite a while to wait. But as we just saw, for a character like Artur, it can lead to unwanted damage because you have to put yourself in harm's way, and Artur doesn't like that. And after we get our revenge on Joshua, where he doesn't crit this time, thank God, well, we're all out of vulneraries and have the last group of bandits to divert, but that means having to dodge a lot of damage. All right, so we'll put ourselves in harm's way, and here we'll have a chance to get hit by not only the bandits but the soldier who comes through. Okay, we dodge that one and we take him out. The next bandit comes through, we dodge that 46%. Okay, one more bandit, and I think one axe user. Oh, we dodge at 45 and we kill that one. Okay, one lance user, please dodge the 9. Oh my God. Artur survives with 6 HP, dodging 4 hits that were around the high 40%. That's quite impressive. And the boss isn't much harder on this map, about 20% chance to hit, so we kind of just take really quick care of business of him. And of course, we've picked up everything and we get our early guiding ring. Let's skip ahead to chapter 6, as 5x can't be done with Artur, so we'll rush through it, grab the keys as per usual, and move on to chapter 6. And chapter 6 is only significant not because of the fog of war, but because we hit level 20. So let's take a look at that level 20 Artur. And oh my gosh, he's a beaut. I have no notes on him. You guys can just take a look on the averages on screen. He's right on them for HP, luck, and res, but looking at his speed, skill, magic, even considering we did use a secret book earlier, there's really nothing bad going on. Our Artur is currently extremely based. He was blessed by some kind of deity. I guess it does pay off to be a monk. I may not have much to say about his stats because they're just really good. They're just good. He's good. But let's move on right away and discuss promotion options, since we already have our guiding ring. Artur gets 2 options, those being Sage and Bishop. And if you've played Sacred Stones before, this question seems like a foregone conclusion, right? Artur has to be a bishop, right? Well, I tend to agree with you. That's what I always do personally, but I still entertain the idea and look at both options. You know, let's give them both a fair shake, one beside another, and take a look at it. So simply in terms of promotional advantage, both have ups and downs. You'll gain more HP and res from Sage, but from Bishop, you'll gain more power and more skill. Arguably, I'd say the Bishop comes out on top there because Artur will not have a problem maxing a res naturally, and 1 more HP isn't gonna do much for him. Another advantage the Bishop class does get over the Sage is the Slayer ability. And the Slayer ability is what makes light magic users in this game quite formidable. That's why I was saying earlier that they fit a very unique niche. It allows you to get super effective damage on monster, more specifically ×3. To give you guys an idea, the sacred twin weapons in the game, so the special weapons, only give ×2 super effective damage on monsters. So you can render a basic tome to be very, very good against the onslaught of monster units that are going to be in this game. But on the other hand, the Sage gives us anima magic, which in and of itself isn't great, except that the tomes are a little lighter, and Artur does appreciate that, because whether he upgrades up in Bishop or Sage, he'll have a total of 7 con before any body ring happens, which is quite low, and light magic tomes are usually quite heavy. But the big reason you would want to go anima magic is because Excalibur, I believe, is the superior tome over Ivaldi, because it gives you that +5 speed, which mages use pretty well because, you know, as I just said, they usually have low con, and that means they get pretty big speed penalties. But honestly, it's not that big of a deal in my opinion. Ivaldi is still quite a lighter tome, so Artur shouldn't have a problem yielding it, especially given the fact that we'll get a body ring later down the line. So I don't see it as that big of an advantage. Finally, let's look at the last piece of the puzzle, and let's look at stat cap. Well, this one's really hard to argue in favor of the Bishop class. Sage gets a max cap of 28 in power versus 25, 30 in skill versus 26, and 26 in speed over 24. Bishop will have the advantage in both res and defense though, but overall I don't think those two stats are quite as significant, especially given the fact that we have a speed wing, a secret book, and 2 energy rings in our future through Eirika's route. There's a good chance we can hit all our stat caps with the Sage class. So honestly, I was heavily leaning Bishop, but the stat caps do complicate the matter a little bit. And as you'll see on the screen, I do decide to finish this map before actually deciding on a promotion option, as at the time in the video, I was still internally deciding what to do. Because on one hand, as I said, the stat caps are extremely enticing, but on the other hand, Slayer's just really good. It trivializes a lot of the later stages of the game. But also, Slayer does render Ivaldi quite useless. Most of the time, the +5 defense can come in handy, because if you guys didn't know, Ivaldi's super effective damage doesn't stack with Slayer. It just overrides it. So Slayer becomes mute when you do equip Ivaldi. So you'll have lower damage with Ivaldi than maybe with like an aura tome or something. So that's something to keep in mind. But ultimately, as I think about it, I decide to stay in line with my original thought process and promo Artur to the Bishop class, because whether I go for Sage or Bishop, I think that there's a specific game plan for both classes to beat Fomortis. But having the Slayer ability, I genuinely believe it makes a lot of the game before that easier. So since I think both options can take out the final boss easily, but I think one will give me an edge throughout the run, I think I'll head with that one. So our Artur becomes a Bishop. So beyond this point, the game simplifies for a while. Most chapters are going to feel quite easy, but I do want to zone in on chapter 8 for a quick minute, because I think it's a great case study of what Artur is and is going to be throughout this run. As you can see here, after rescuing Ephraim's crew on the left side and making our way to the Knights to go grab that angelic robe, which Artur is going to need on the right hand side chest, we can see that Artur here is suffering in terms of HP. He may be extremely over leveled and make quick work of those Knights, but his poor defense is still causing him to take quite a bit of damage. So we make it to Tirdo with about half HP, no more vulneraries, but don't worry, it won't be an issue because he can barely hit us. And as you can see, we make quick work of him. So as I already said for a little bit, quite uneventful, kind of more of the same. We're racing through maps, making quick work, pretty much every enemy. And to show you guys how well this is going, Artur is going to be completely level blessed. And as you can see, this is just a level 12. He already maxed out skill, magic, and speed, and we only use Amelia's wing. We ignore the secret book, the 2 energy rings, all of that. None of it needed. Artur is doing really well, and it just kind of shows in the way the run is going right now. I guess you can now make an argument that going Sage could push those max taps all the way up, but you know, it's kind of a moot point. What's done is done. Let's look at chapter 12 really quickly just to get a good visual image of Slayer at work, and it's goddamn beautiful. Look at those. One shine is all we need. One shine in a dream, baby. And we're one-shotting all those undead units with about 40-ish damage. So yeah, I think we did the right choice, because usually this map does take me a little longer, but here we get over it fast. And let's just skip ahead, because even Carlisle on chapter 14 doesn't have an answer for this monstrous Artur. He dominates so much that we don't even get to fight the cavalry reinforcement on chapter 14, and they spawn on chapter 6 and they have much more movement than me. They don't get to catch up to me because we're just zooming. All right, let's talk about everyone's favorite chapter 15. I know it's your favorite because you guys get to see your favorite character, Null. You guys keep talking to me about him in the comments. Doesn't mean I make a solo run soon on him, but you guys can keep dreaming, keep hoping. But we're not here to talk about him. We're here to talk about our boy Artur, who will let commit all sorts of unethical war crimes in the background as we talk about his final form, his level 20. And this is one heck of a final form. Oh, but by the way, back to Null for a second. Let's look at something far less glorious than our Artur. Null's very predictable demise. He didn't even get the dodge once this time. You know, consider dropping a like for him to pay your respect and might help him just feel a little bit better. But time to move on, so bye-bye, Null. Bye-bye. Honestly, can we all give it up for Artur right now? Because those stats are fantastic. His averages aren't too far off from what he is right now, given the fact that we did use the speed wing in one skill book, but we already talked about those stats being all the way up. Even in terms of defense, luck, and HP, we're looking very good. And we still have one angelic robe in our future and one talisman too, which means our HP is going to go up to 57 and our res is going to be maxed out in the next chapter. Plus the body ring coming up and the swift soul that we've already picked up. I honestly don't think we could have had a Artur that went in a better direction. He is in the best Artur form I probably have ever had an Artur in my life, so I'm pretty impressed. So getting back to chapter 15, as I've already mentioned, we're picking up the swift soul and the body ring, but here I'll actually lose a little bit of time, but on purpose. Let me explain why. What I do end up doing on this map is I end up using Dusel, who's, you know, happens to be on the map because he gets reinforced automatically and he's holding on to Ephraim for us to keep him alive, not get a game over. I will be training my staff level on him using my barrier staff to get the level B. And I also take a few turns to grab the silent staff, which is on the left hand side of the desert above the body ring. And some of you may have already guessed that I did that because silence is a B level staff. So if I want to use it, I have to get the B level in staves. And overall, this makes me lose about 15 turns. So nothing tragic, but I still thought it's an important note to add. And we'll talk about the silent staff a little later when it does come into play. So we move on to chapter 16 and we'll get the aforementioned talisman, but I will also grab an even more important item, that being Purge. So in the throne room where Orson is chilling, he has two sages with long range spells to his left and right. One has bolting and the other one has the ever annoying Purge. The cool thing is that the sage with Purge will drop his unequipped tome upon death. The strategy seems clear, I think. We have to rush him, but that does cause a lot of reinforcement of that around us that we do have to fend off, but we do end up doing a pretty good job. What I do is I place myself right next to him to force him to use divine because Purge is only a 3 to 10 range spell. So if you are close to him, he cannot use it, and these sages are programmed to not move. And the AI in this game, even if it can't do damage, is programmed to attack. So even if it can't hurt you, if you're the only option it has, it will attack you. So we do kill him, we grab the Purge, and it's quite an easy task. It's kind of one and done. It's not super hard, but it is an important tome I wanted to bring focus to because it's a rare time we get to use a super long range spell, and I wanted to make sure we picked it up. So as I said, the onslaught of enemies will swarm us, but Artur decides to put on his dodging shoes today. We make it out with both the talisman and Purge, which will actually be an integral part of my strategy, but not right away. So let's keep that one in our back pocket and we'll take it out later. So chapter 17 is quite easy, as the challenge here usually lies in the high power dark magic users, Leon being chief among them. But this time with a high res light magic user, we do not run into a single issue. And we beat Leon 1 and we make it to chapter 18. Where for once, you guys, it's not a problem. Look at this. The Gorgons being dark magic users make it so Artur has the weapon triangle advantage, making it super easy paired up with his extremely high resistance and the cherry on top, the Slayer skill. He'll have a field day on this map. Also, look, only 11% chance for stone to hit, and well, that was unfortunate. I did speak a little quickly here. To be fair, that's quite funny. I gotta admit, my luck was bound to turn around at some point. But look at this, they barely do any damage. I'm quite intrigued to see how this will go, given that they're all getting hit by the fire tiles around us. Let's speed it up and see. Okay, that was insane. We almost survived the Gorgons while being stoned. That's great. That would have been one of the most amazing things to happen. I'm a little floored right now. But let's get back to the run. So the second try of chapter 18 easily goes our way. We don't get hit by any 11% chance this time. And we move on right to chapter 19, where we'll take an approach I've been recently favoring. That being to kill Reeve outright, because you can usually get to him in about 3 turns. Instead of waiting out all the turns, just go to him and take care of him. This time, however, it's not only to save on turns, but it's to grab the one aura tome that is available for us in the game, which will give Artur a huge power boost. However, it is quite a heavy tome, so you have to know against which enemy to use it. But between that and Ivaldi, which is lighter, we should be generally fine. We should always have a good option in our pocket. And then guys, here comes chapter 20. And honestly, it's a monster map. You guys know how it'll go. You're aware at this point. We quickly take the bottom path and make short work of the onslaught of enemies. Now let's just skip to the end. Nothing even remotely close to happens, because the only challenge for him is just more of a even Reeve doesn't do damage. And here we'll kill with Ivaldi, which will kill him, but we will enemy phase and elixir to be full health to avoid as much damage as possible, because I think he's going to hit us. Whether we like it or not, I do believe, and yeah, 84 he hits us, but we take out our good friend with a crit just for insurance purposes. Crit mattered there. And now we have to dodge 0 damage, not even a problem on the evil eye. There is a few other enemies. Okay, 32% hit us. That's kind of bad. Okay, we have 2 HP. We should be fine, I believe here. Let's see. Reeve, as I said, does 0 damage, so that's not a problem. Is there any other enemy in range? I think we're good. I think we're I think we're in the clear. Now that Reeve is dead, okay, yeah, as I said, we're fine. Oh, okay, there's another one, and okay, we got hit by that 28%. Well, that's unlucky. Well, that's just unfortunate, but let's get right back to where we were. We'll sit beside Morva once again, less in the range of the enemies. Again, he does hit us here, but we will take him out. We still have 13 HP, just like last time. But let's see if we have any other enemies in the way. We have the Evil Eye, as we've already discussed. We're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. We're going to take him out without an issue. I think there's 2 gargoyles that might hit us this time, instead of 2 gargoyles and a Cyclops. But let's see after we've cleared out all these Evil Eyes, which, again, there's no tension here. Move me to the gargoyles. I got to know how it's gonna happen. All right, Reeve comes in again. He gets dropped. We're the better bishop, sir. Get out of my house. You know, give me the gargoyles. Okay, 1, we dodge. That's good. We'll take it out. Next one, 26. We dodge. Great. Crit for insurance again. We love to see it. And the final one, we get hit, but I think we're really in the clear this time. I think we're Corgan 50. You better know. Okay, that's good. Honestly, if I got hit by 50% chance there, I think I would have quit. I think I would quit. I think my entire Fire Emblem career was gone. Was done. You guys wouldn't see me again. But anyways, moving on. Final map time. Let's see if this Archer can pull out a victory for us. So the first and very important thing we'll do is on the right hand side of the map, we will be going to grab the chest, which has an angelic robe. So once we're done taking care of the onslaught of zombie around us, we will take care of grabbing that angelic robe. However, next we will take the zombie dragon on the left hand side. So we'll be doing a little bit of movement here. And the reason behind this is because on this map, if you take the right bridge or if you take the left bridge, different things happen. So if you take the left bridge, you will get attacked from the right side, from the opposite side, by evil eyes. While if you take the bridge on the right side, on the left side, there will be gargoyles that will spawn, death goyles to be more precise. And because of Archer's resistance, I'm way more comfortable fighting off the evil eyes. But we head to the dragon, and even with Ivaldi, we 2-shot him, which is great, but we will get hit as Archer's dodging antics will be less impressive now than they were earlier in the game. We're kind of sorry to be at the end of our rope for him having an easy time right now. But after that, we do make short work of the left-hand side, despite getting hit here and there by a few things. Nothing too scary happens, and we only have 1 elixir for Leon. So one of the first things we do is we take out all the Gorgons around him. Even though they're not too much of an issue, a stray stone would suck I don't want to take a chance. Okay, so this is where you'll see the silent staff actually come into play. We'll grab Aura and Evaldi to make a couple of tests. So my thinking is maybe we can silence Leon here and we take no damage. But as you can see, 0 hit rate because this is based off of res versus magic damage and not hit versus avoid. So Leon having perfect res kind of puts us in a pickle here. But luckily our strategy didn't hinge on that. So what we'll do is we'll test out both Aura and Evaldi. And as you can see, Aura higher crit, Evaldi higher damage, but still good crit on Evaldi. 13 isn't anything to scoff at. So what we'll do here is we'll use one of our elixir and we will rate beside Leon. Then he will attack us at 68% chance to hit. He does, you know, predictably. We will both hit him, but unfortunately no crit for us, so he's down to 49 HP. However, here I do switch up my strategy a little bit to save one elixir for the final boss. What I do is I take out the pure water and I decide to use the pure water to boost my already impressive res. That way I can take one of his hits and it drops down to 17. We get 2 other chances at maybe critting, and we don't on the first time. We do get hit, by the way, and we also don't on the second time. So that didn't come in super useful. We're gonna have to use the elixir here. So we keep Evaldi equipped because it's higher damage. 2 hits will kill Leon, but we can't attack him because then he will kill us. So we have to use an elixir, our last one, unfortunately. So we'll have to go into the Demon King with no elixir, but we know that Leon is dead. He has been taken care of. Thank you to Evaldi. But we get to the Demon King first try, actually. So let's go. Let's check it out. Evaldi, 18 times 2, 2% chance to crit. That's not bad. Let's check Aura. Aura's only does 20, so more damage, as I said earlier, because that's the times 3 damage of Slayer versus Evaldi's time 2 effectiveness, but it's a lot lighter. Aura has a weight of 15, while Evaldi has a weight of 10, and Artur does have a con of 9, so -1 to his speed, making him at 23 speed versus -4 to his speed, so under the 23 bar that you need to double the Demon King. So that's why Evaldi's a little bit better here. Despite Aura having that nice 12% chance to crit, we go for it here, expecting maybe a crit, but we don't get it. Would have been nice though. We do get hit by 4 Mortis here. As you can see, he does a lot of damage, and since we didn't have Evaldi equipped, we can't really tank it out. But what we'll do is we'll back it up here. We'll take care of the friendos around, and then we'll get back to taking care of him. So you may have been seeing I've had the Upland Guard equipped for a while now. That's because Artur's luck is still pretty poor, and you know, a lot of things can crit us at this point. And here I start using Aura to preserve some use of Evaldi if in case I need to double. I'm only down to 4 at this point. I've used it a lot. I've leaned on it a little bit more, but you'll also see me pull out the final piece of the puzzle, the Purge Tome. So here, as you can see, Purge on the Demon King only does 14, but has a 2% chance to hit. And we do get 5 to send out here. So we will drop the 5 Purge on the Demon King back to back to back. See, that's what the beauty of Slayer does. We get to avoid quite a bit of damage and kind of chip him down a lot, because honestly, with Artur's avoid against him, which was quite low, and his survivability and defense being pretty poor, I don't think he would have been able to make it without the Purge. But he's down to 30 HP. Our Purge is broken. We are still in a bit of a pickle here. We have the crit from Aura, but we have Evaldi right here. 2 hits will hit, so we go for it. We try it out. We hit once, and can we dodge? He can't. Okay, so he did hit us right there. Unfortunately, we did get the game over. We kind of got unfortunate luck at the end there. Well, I mean, the luck wasn't on our side, but it, you know, we had bad odds. We didn't have good odds. So you guys can kind of start seeing how this is gonna go down. You know, it's very clear that with 1 elixir on our side when we get to him, we're just good. There shouldn't be a problem, because our only problem there was, you know, being able to tank a single hit. So if we can get 1 elixir to tank that single hit, I think we'll be just fine. Using Purge does make this fight a lot easier, but we do have to make it back before we can start theorizing a little bit deeper. Also, a lot of you have told me that you consider the final fight to be a whole different map, a whole different chapter. And while I hear your feedback, and I think it's a very good point, I'll still keep it as kind of a back pocket strategy, because I like the idea of only doing those 2 final maps using 1 elixir. However, if fights become too tedious and just hinge on just that simple little detail, I will start implementing it in runs. But for the time being, I'll keep it as is, because, you know, if it doesn't become a factor, I won't use it. But if it does, well, we'll see where we go. So we make it back to Leon without really a hitch. It's a pretty simple time to get back there. And we do take a more straightforward approach this time. We just kind of go in his face. We don't even bother about the Gorgons right beside beside him. We pure water. We have 1 elixir left. We pure water right beside him. We know they won't kill us. They might stone us if we're very unlucky, but you know, here we take that 17 from Leon, and we have 13 damage from Evaldi. We get a crit on the second one. Okay, and then beyond that, if we don't get stone here, we'll be able to 2-shot him right after. That was a very clutch crit. I wasn't expecting it. We just kind of bum rushed it this time because I realized usually the big problem isn't necessarily the stone on these Gorgons. It's more the damage, and since we use a pure water, Artur doesn't take damage here. He doesn't need it. We just kind of go for it at this point. There is this 16 stone here. We dodge it, and we finish off Leon easily. 13, he can do 18 damage to us, can't crit, so we will take him out very handily at that. Now that this is done, back to the Demon King number 2. And here again, you see I'm again with the conundrum of Evaldi or Aura. I do settle on Evaldi. I think more damage equals better. Let's not bank on a crit. Let's go for pure damage and see where that brings us. He does hit us, but we take the damage. And again, what we'll do is we'll do the simple play of falling all the way back so that we're out of his range, and we'll take out all his nice friends. I'll skip it because it's never really a problem. They don't do that much damage, and usually we can kind of fare pretty well here. So here I finally take out my purge, and we will start going to town on him and see how low we can take him out. So it's purge and turn, and it's pretty simple. And he dodges one of it. Okay, and we lose a use of purge. Okay, that's annoying, but I don't think it's a problem unless he dodges more of them. I think we're fine. We still have 2 left here. He's at 56 now, down to 42. I won't try to make math as I commentate this because I'm dumb, so I'll just let Artur do the damage and figure it out. 28 in our purge break, and I think Evaldi did, how much did it do? 18, I think. Let's heal up. Let's go. Can we? That was a very anticlimactic way to end this. Let's check this out. Evaldi, 18 times 2. Unless we miss a 2%. Do we miss a 2%? We hit the first one, and we get hit here, obviously, and we hit the second one. Well, the run is done. Holy heck, I was not expecting it to be this simple. Turns out Purge and Slayer combo really made that fight super simple. Okay, well, honestly, I'm quite impressed with Artur's showing. The end wasn't clean, and it did start to show signs of struggle, but not enough to kind of hold him down. He did manage to find his way to overcome his low caps overall, and in the late game, he squeaks out a win, and he does it pretty confidently. Also, folks, I'd like to announce we have a new best time of 7 hours and 25 minutes. Artur beat Loot's time by a whole half hour. That's nothing to scoff at. But to be extremely charitable to Loot, the strategy I employed for the start of the game, using Seth to move around and to rescue and to drop, does slow down her process a little bit in the start, while Artur just could kind of free roam and make it very quickly and very easy. So probably using the same strategy Artur would have used, she would have saved quite a little bit of time. On the other hand, Artur finished the game in 381 turns, which is only 5 more than Loot. It's not that much more. This is also an interesting one because an argument could be made that I wasted some turns on the desert map to raise my staff level and didn't even end up using it. So it wasn't a useful waste. It was just because I was doing a test. So you could say that I would have been 10 to 15 turns less if I wasn't in that scenario. This is kind of an interesting conundrum because we start getting into very close territory with some of these units. But with that being said, I'd have to say that overall Artur was a much smoother ride than Loot. Hence why I think we have a new number 1. New number 1 status goes to Artur. So ladies and gentle folks, we have a new top dog in the house. But I will keep them in the same tier given that I think Artur's performance, while better, didn't blow Loot out of the water or anything like that. Well, this is it for me, but before we go, I'd like to take a minute to direct you guys to the join button down below. If you love these videos, consider becoming a member. I'm really trying to make it as an FE creator, and any form of support is appreciated. So if you can afford it, feel free to check it out. No obligation needed, just consider it. But that's about it for me. Thank you all for watching the video and the continued support. I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.